I got a spicy and pretty interesting topic today. Jets owner Woody Johnson put Miami and the Bills on notice in 2024. And I know, basically, if you're a Jets fan, you're like, oh, if we just had Rodgers, and if you're a Bills fan, you're like, we win all the time and we got Allen. And or you can say that if you're a Dolphins fan, we had all those injuries. They can't have the same injuries this year. And really, all those are real viable opinions, but ultimately, I don't believe it's a get-out-of-jail-free card for any of these teams. But I want to go look at the cap situation of these three teams, the free agents leaving, and to show where there are possibilities for all three of these teams to move up and move down. I got a couple graphics for you. Be very clear, and you're going to see this offseason for all three teams is going to be paramount of what happens, not just this year, but going forward. All three teams are in an absolute crossroads. Woody Johnson put Salah and his whole staff on notice. And one of the key things that he mentioned, and I think this could be very intriguing, especially for Dolphins fans, is he said the very first words out of his mouth was, we have to keep the quarterback vertical. And, it was pretty obvious going into the season, Jets' offensive line was critical. I said the same thing if I covered the Dolphins. And so this understanding that Johnson says we're going to use the draft and free agency to get this fixed. Receiving group, pretty good. You got one high point talent. I think Rodgers can uplift the rest. Running back group, is with Breece Hall is very good. Probably add some depth. Tight end group, it's pretty much solidified. It's all about this offensive line. I'll get into the details where I think they can turn themselves around, but it's not a given. There's a lot of curiosity there. Now, the Bills, they did a phenomenal job. That offensive line really uplifted the whole team. Once Shaky Bones Dorsey was gone, and the team decided to play pass balance, as I've been saying, the NFL's turned to that direction. We're able to run the football with Brady behind him. I don't know if Brady's the guy yet. I got to see what his highest level is, but his floor was higher than Dorsey's ceiling. But when they ran behind that offensive line, Torrance brought in the second round, great pick, solidified that whole front. There's some things they're going to have to work on to keep that going because they got issues there. But that offensive line drove the Bills to that big comeback. Conversely, Jets, Dolphins, they languished, most notably for the offensive line. It was the offensive line. And, as I say here, the offensive line makes the NFL world go round. So, I try to be, not what most channels do. Most channels are rah, 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 show you your legs in your dress and shake the pom-poms. I try to be realistic and accurate. And I do think that each one of these GMs for all three teams has the potential to screw things up big time this year and next. You're going to see. But also, again, take that next step. Now, I'm going to get into it in a second. But first, guys, I got to do the sales pitches. No, I hate to do it. I really do. But the likes, the subscribes, the comments, the views, all that stuff keeps me in business. So anything you can do to help me out with that. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Hit the like button. If you have subscribed, hit the notification bell. Little thing up there, and it lets you know I do my thing. And the comments. I love the comments. So, guys, I appreciate that so much. I love to do this. So that's why I'm going to give you a shout-out and a shout-out to Ace Bird, my sponsor, because without the two of you, this show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, let's open up with free agents. It's really intriguing. It's not my team, the Jets and the Bills, but I just love the game of football. I love the chess moves, the plays. And I love the nuance. I just love to think about the game. And when you look at the Jets, and then you attach it to their cap, and the Bills and the Dolphins attach it to their cap, it really is interesting. Now, the Bills have some critical pieces leaving. You'll see them at the bottom here. Most of them, though, are older, and they really don't have a lot of cap space. They're kind of in the same spot as the Dolphins. But Micah Hyde's a guy that's been around, and maybe he's lost a little bit, but, still a player, and you're going to maybe say goodbye to him considering where you are at the cap. Leonard Floyd, older guy like Hyde, but, can you keep him? Daquan Jones, when you got Daquan Jones, Poona Ford, Phillips, there is nobody really behind Oliver right now, and there's a big gaping hole for him to leave if he leaves. But he's 33 years old, and he's coming off a pec damage. So maybe he comes back. Some of these guys might come back for lower prices to play with a team they know at their age. But it's very interesting. You see Dane Jackson's another guy that they're going to miss. They've got really good talent drafted in the back end that can kind of fit in there. Maybe Elam finally finds his way. But that's and AJ Espinosa, he was a role player, but really hitting some real big high point plays for the Bills. Gabriel Davis, he's had problems with communication and he could drop the ball, but that's another big play. So there's a lot of guys on this Bills roster that played key roles that are leaving. Most of them, though, are kind of older, long in the tooth. And that can be good for the Bills to bring them back, or it could be bad. They bring them back and then they continue to get injured. I think Hyde was injured again last year, and it's kind of been a trend now. Now, my Dolphins, Connor Williams is injured. He won't be ready till midseason. Super talented, but young. Christian Wilkins, very, very, he's a key to this defense. Real talented, young. He's a little bit up there, still getting the 28, 29, but these guys could play into their 30s. You could see Daquan Jones was 33, had a phenomenal season till the injury. But that's a big piece, expensive piece. Braxton Berrios played a nice role in the third wide receiver, special teams, he's out. Andrew Van Ginkel, he's going to make a sizable penny on the free agency market. Another young guy, Robert Hunt, critical piece. And this is a focus, I think, for Jets fans. If I'm the Jets, this is a guy I put my eyes on. And I'm going to get into that in a second. I hope it's not true. I hope we bring him back. I hope we tag him. Because this guy is going to have a huge market. The guard market is very thin. There's like 3 guys right now that would be considered quality players. And considering how young Hunt is, I think he's like 26, 27. Yeah, what a big deal. Now, Elliott leaving. He's another young guy who played on a 1-year deal and did excellent, and he's going to increase his market. And right now, he got a gap in that safety spot. Now, Bryce Huff, Quentin Jefferson, Whitehead, and Chuck Clark, both the safeties are now not with the Jets. Whitehead's pretty good, but the Jets only have a small amount of money to work with. Bigger next year. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. They could sign him and push that money to next year, as you'll see. But they have the smallest, really big pieces missing for themselves, where, say, the Bills have some very key pieces and they're in a hole, and Dolphins have young key pieces missing on the free agent market as well. Now, here's this image, this image, and you can see the current situation. When you look at your cap this year, you want to look many years in advance, not too many because there's so much play, but clearly a 2-year window is so critical, because if you don't have money the following year, it's harder and harder to push that money forward. So when you're looking at a team's ability to find their way, you look at the 2 seasons, the current season and the following season, and it's going to really help you understand where the team is at with flexibility, as well as the amount of players on the roster. If you have minus $50 million and you got 69 guys signed, it's not a bad shape. And you could have 100 million, but if you only got 20 guys on the roster, then that is not as good as it looks. Savvy? Comprendez-vous? So we'll take a look at the Jets and Woody. Woody is saying that he wants to go all in. This staff knows, this GM knows it's all in. Can they do something to get themselves in position? I think they can, but there is huge room for problems. Rodgers, will he stay healthy? Likely, but it's not guaranteed. This offensive line, can they put the pieces together? Yes, but it's not guaranteed. There's a lot of work to do on this offensive line and then filling in some other spots. But they've got 57 players on this roster. A bunch of those guys are guys that, you're going to get let go, and they're not core players. I don't know the exact amount. I'll get into that later, what the core players are. I've done it with my Dolphins. We have about 22 out of our number, and I'll get to that in a second. But they're only at $5 million cap space. They voided contracts of Dwayne Brown and Carl Lawson, and their ability to really let guys go to get money is limited. They mostly are going to find cap space by extending high-priced players into the future. So they have a tenuous situation, a sort of inflexible situation at the moment, but it can open up. And when you look at 25, they've got 41 players on the roster, which is not bad at all considering they have $103 million. Now, that means they can extend guys this year, making big money and free up sizable amounts of cash. There's always the risk because when you lock guys in, then it becomes immovable money in the future. But Woody Johnson, I think he's saying, I don't care. This is it. This is the year. The staff knows that. So I think they will sell the future as far as the eye can see. And that gives them tremendous flexibility. And I'm going to use that when I start talking about moves and possibilities. Now, Bills, they've got 58 players. You saw some of the good players leaving. Now, Beane's done a good job finding guys in the background to fill in roles. Guys that you didn't think were going to be starters, but when guys drop, all the guys step up. And so this is not a bad spot. I mean, it's a bad spot when you look at the $51 million. And I think it's about 54 when you factor in draft picks and all this else. There's real cap and then there's a current cap, whatever. But 58 players is a good spot in players, bad spot in money numbers. And then when you look at next year, they only got 32 and only 30 million. So they are going to have to find cheaper guys to fill this roster up because you've got a 2-year pocket here where it is a little tight. And you're going to have to see some guys step up, which you did see. You got Benford in the background who stepped up. Maybe he can find his way. Elam, maybe he could find his way. They've got guys. And, White, Tre'Davious White, is he coming back? We've got to see with that, too. That was a terrible injury. He's older. I don't know. There's definitely areas where we don't know the situation, but this is sort of a tight spot. But for 24, not a terrible spot if they can use that capital, fill that DT spot, and fill some of these linebackers. They're losing Dotson, I believe, and that's not an easy player to lose. He's did well for you with Milano stepping down. Now, my Dolphins, we have 46 players on the roster in 2024, which is the lowest of the 3 teams. And we have the least amount of cap space, only by $1 million. But that is a very, very, very tight spot. And then when you factor 25, we only got 22 players and $58 million. That $58 million is not $58 million. It's going to take just to fill with, if you wanted to fill with $750,000 per player, 31 players, you're talking about $25 million for your low-end players, just to get to the 53. So Dolphins are extraordinarily tight. They can push money forward, but they're going to have to push money more forward than 25, 26 likely. And that's what the Bills are going to have to do. So the Bills and the Dolphins are in a weaker position in overall team building than the Jets. Jets clearly are in a terrible spot with their offensive line. And they do have a problem because they have the oldest quarterback. And I do think he'll be fine as far as health, but they are in a position to be buyers. They are in a position to push lots of money forward. And they are in a position to make that push. Like Fast and the Furious when it hit the nitro. The Jets can actually do it. Now, they could spend foolishly and bring in the wrong players and screw it all up now and the future. So it's no guarantees, but there is the option there where the Dolphins and the Bills don't have that real play. They're going to have to build cheaper. Now, I do like some of their roster points better, although the Dolphins are struggling on that offensive line, just like the Jets. Not as bad We got to see what happens with Tehran. Does he come back or not? But when you look at the Bills, that offensive line is pretty good. They've got the tight ends in place. They're a little thin on the receiver point because Diggs says he's not sure if he's coming back. Davis is leaving. You got Shakir, but really not much else, although you got Kincaid. Running back situation's good. Quarterback situation's good. Defense, you got one safety in Poyer. You're still going to need another one. You can get that. You can find that, mid-rounds. Linebacker situation, how does Milano come back? But you still need some depth. That line, where's Vaughn at? Vaughn was not even really here this season. Can they move on from him? I don't know. So they're going to need help on that edge D-line. They're going to need help inside at the linebacker, D tackle, and obviously I said the linebacker position, but also maybe a little bit in that cornerback as well, but not a ton. They're probably going to need a little bit more help in that offensive line. Morse is getting a little bit older. Some of the guys, inside are a little bit older. That left guard, I can't remember his name, that you just got, he's been around for a little bit. He's getting a little bit older, but you might want to upgrade that. But clearly it's the defensive spot where that tackle and edge players, especially if Vaughn doesn't come back. Now, Dolphins, they need help on the offensive line. They got problems with the edge players. Phillips and Chubb is down. Van Ginkel's probably going to walk. They need help on the edge. If Wilkins doesn't come back, if he does, it's a big relief. But they need probably help in a D tackle spot. Linebacker's a little thin. They're going to need that second safety. Cornerback, what do they do with X? You got Cam Smith in the background. That's nice. But the Dolphins do have such high point talent. And they got Achane, they've got Waddle, they've got Hill, the tight end position's another one. They've got a bunch of spots they're going to need to fill. But as far as the Jets making a move and actually overtaking either and or Bills and the Dolphins. If I'm a Jets GM, I am spending my money on the offensive line, and Woody said that in free agency and the draft. First words was keeping the quarterback vertical. I would make a play on Hunt. And this is the risk if Greer does not tag Hunt. He is going to be a huge commodity, and the Jets can take that piece from the Dolphins, solidify that. You could even put Vera-Tucker outside, and you got your center with Tipman. You're going to need the left tackle who you can get in a draft maybe or something, You're going to have to go to first round, but there is a decent amount of tackles out there, and they've got a high first round pick. I'm thinking they're going to get a tackle with that first round pick and make a big move on Hunt because he's the youngest guy and probably the most talented, and put it, maybe $2 or $3 million over what he should get to bring him to the Jets. And then you would have that offensive line and then pick up some other pieces cheap in the first round of free agency, post free agency, and then even deeper in the draft with some other pieces here and there. They don't have all their picks. I think some of their picks are gone, but they do have enough to fire away and fill the situation when you factor in the money they can push forward. So if they fire wrong, Jets will go back to Jets. I do think if Rodgers is healthy, his ability to call the line of scrimmage will help the offensive coordinator, who's terrible, because he's just really de facto. Rodgers is the de facto offensive coordinator when he's there. And so he'll call from the line of scrimmage and he'll uplift these receivers. He'll lift that offensive line, but they're still going to need some talent there. And if Vera-Tucker can stay healthy, maybe slide outside, draft that tackle, and then go all in on one of those top three. And if it was me, I would go after Hunt. He's very talented, fits what the Jets like to do. They run inside zone, they run some outside zone, but it's heavy inside zone. He'd be protected in some ways with Rodgers there, and he'd have Brees to run behind him, Brees Hall to run behind him. So I think that is a concern for both the Bills and especially the Dolphins. They've got to hold on to Hunt. I said 2 years ago, it was a running game arms race, an offensive line arm race inside the AFC East. And the Bills are the ones that rose up out of that with that offensive line and run game. And that's why they took the East last year. Whoever falls behind on this arms race might find themselves shocked to see the Jets pass them. Obviously, Jets beating the Dolphins would not be fun. I think the Dolphins have opportunities, and I'll get that to later. But I would not put it past the Jets to be a thorn in the side of this AFC East. So that's my take. Jets fans, I would be hopeful, but Jets screw it up a lot. Dolphins fans, I would be hopeful, but we have a tendency to screw up the offensive line. If we get whoever gets this offensive line right is going to be really have a huge edge this year. It's all about that. It's all about that. And you know, I mean, anybody who's telling you otherwise is crazy. So anyway, this is Curtis. Catch you next time. Be well. See you soon. I gotta do it. Go Fins! Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with aceBread.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.